Why a laundromat?
There is something that says home in laundromats.
We wanted to create something that would have a life of its own in the most beautiful way. It is malleable, it moves and it shifts with people, it breathes life.
What it's evolved into is this collection of human beings who each have the capacity to have a tremendous ripple effect in their communities.
20 years of Laundromat Project, this is an interesting trajectory because it feels like now more than ever, the time put in to build this institution that is still doing the work.
The LP invites us as artists to rethink and reimagine our role, to think of our role as one of healing, as connecting, as inviting communities to embody the future that they imagine.
The Laundromat Project has the ability and power to affect policy change in our local communities in New York and also be a model for how nonprofits can do that work.
Anything is possible, that there are no limits to what we can do. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who created the Laundromat Project. It's a moment to acknowledge the organization for the resilient entity that it is. Small but mighty, now mighty but true.
My bad, I came out a little bit sooner than I should have. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Joy Bivens, and I have the distinct privilege of serving as director of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. And we are celebrating our 100th anniversary this year, and we are so glad that you could be here. We are so glad that you could be here this evening. It is always a pleasure when we are able to sit with creators and curators and makers of culture and those who are continuing in the legacy of institution building, because we know it is our institutions that will save us and that are our foundation. So I congratulate the Laundromat Project on 20 years, and I hope you will join me in congratulating them as well. Do I have any folks for whom this is the first time they are in the Schomburg Center? I want to extend an especially warm welcome to you all. I know the rest of you all are our friends and family, and I want to welcome you here this evening. I know this will be a wonderful experience. I want to welcome you all, and I look forward to the conversation. So, we have legends on the stage. I know you will be blessed, and I am blessed by your presence. Thank you for joining us here this evening. I'm going to bring Novella forward to the stage to get this program started. Thank you for being at the Schomburg Center.
Good evening and welcome to the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. Thank you. Feel free to, when you want to clap with like heartiness, you don't have to hold back. And if you are the only person clapping, that's okay, with heartiness, right? Do not hold back. As Joy said, my name is Novella Ford, and I'm the Associate Director of Public Programs and Exhibitions here. And for 100 years, with its origins in the original 135th Street Library, the Schomburg has been the intellectual heart of Harlem. And we thank you for contributing to the communities that affirm our work every day. Those communities include organizations like the Laundromat Project and this incredible panel of leaders and curators and so much more. And so I'm so grateful that you all are here to join us. Part of that 100 years, of course, is Dr. Deborah Willis, who was the curator of photography here. I do believe Dr. Willis is the hardest working woman that I know. Who always has something creative, something scholarly going on in the world, but something that reflects, that is always providing a mirror to us in the community, a reflection back to us so that we can understand what our images were 100 years ago, and she will help others to understand our images now for the next 100 years. So thank you for all that you do, Dr. Willis. As I mentioned, we are celebrating the Schomburg Center's 100th anniversary all year long, so I hope you return again. We currently have on view the 100, A Century of Collections, Community, and Creativity, which showcases a century of committed collecting and dedicated stewardship by generations of Schomburg Center librarians, curators, and educators who have nurtured the creation of new knowledge. Also, one of the series that we have for the centennial is titled Black on Screen, A Century of Radical Visual Culture. Tomorrow we will have another, the third installment of that series with a film called Cuban Roots. And it is an incredible story of a family that goes from Jamaica to Cuba to the Bronx. So if you are available, please join us again. Tomorrow, that program, I believe, is at 6:30, and we'll have a talk back with the filmmaker as well. This series captures 100 years of local and transnational Black movement work and artistic evolution on film, bringing together feature films, documentaries, performing recordings, concerts, and so many more formats from our moving image and recorded sound collections. Black on Screen is inspired by our centennial exhibition, which I mentioned is currently on view in the galleries. I invite you to learn more about the Schomburg Center and our upcoming programs by visiting our website at schomburgcenter.org. And if you want to get straight to what's happening as part of our centennial, it is schomburg.org/100. Thank you for joining us here in Harlem and online for Echoes of the Seed, a conversation on sowing change and transformation with leaders of the Laundromat Project. It'll be moderated by trailblazing artist, curator, and scholar Dr. Deborah Willis. This intimate conversation brings together the architects of the Laundromat Project, founder Risë Wilson, founding executive director Kemi Ilesanmi. Oh, I get your name. Yeah, okay, close enough. We are also twins, so it's amazing to see us in the same place. We are usually right behind each other, or people think that we are the other person. And the first program director, Petrushka Bazin Larsen, alongside a current executive director, Ayesha Williams. I'm delighted that you are here to witness this conversation that I think is deeply rooted in the kind of transformational leadership often discussed, but not as prolific in practice. These Black women individually and collectively offer us an opportunity to see inside what does it mean to be deeply rooted in community, as well as a belief in the transformational power of creativity. Next up, you will hear from Ayesha Williams, who is the executive director of the Laundromat Project. She's an arts professional with 2 decades of experience working with visual artists, presenting programs, and generating funding for commercial galleries and nonprofit institutions. Prior to the LP, she managed visual arts at Lincoln Center and served as the director of Kent Gallery, New York. In addition to her professional experience, Ayesha is on the board of Rivers Institute for Contemporary Art and Thought and the Black School, and a member of Independent Curators International Independence. She completed the Stanford Impact Program for Arts Leaders and serves as a steering committee member of the UN Women's Conference in 2016. She received her master's degree in visual arts administration from New York University and bachelor's degree in political science from University of Southern California, Los Angeles. Please, please give a warm welcome to Ayesha Williams, who will help to set this evening.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Again. My name is, like Novella said, Ayesha Williams. I'm executive director of the Laundromat Project. A huge thank you to Novella and the entire Schomburg team, Kalila and others, for your continued support and partnership, and for hosting us this evening for this conversation and allowing us to be a part of your 100th centennial anniversary. This is, I think, the 3rd collaboration that we've had with Schomburg. I think we've been here twice before, and so looking forward to many, many more opportunities to collaborate and continue to be in partnership with one another. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that last week we lost a powerhouse, a titan, a staunch advocate and supporter of arts and culture and social justice, Ms. Agnes Gund. Aggie was a longtime supporter and early supporter of the LP's mission and vision from the very beginning of the organization. And I want to just send love and care and condolences to her family and loved ones, and also to those whose lives, organizations, and practices she touched. We will continue to carry her memory through all that we do. So this night is gonna be special. I have to be honest, I don't know where the conversation is gonna go. With this group of women on this stage, who knows? We do have a structure, all the things, but we'll see where the journey takes us, and that's what makes it so magical and so special. And so I just want to extend my deepest gratitude to you all, and I think I'm gonna get through this without crying. But my deepest gratitude for saying yes to the opportunity to come together. I feel so privileged to know bits and pieces of your story and the way that your stories intersect with the LP. And it's so special that more folks get to be exposed and experience that magic. So you are in for true magic tonight, and I'm really excited for what you will hear and receive and what you all will share. Oh, feedback. It's an honor to welcome you to Echoes of the Seed, a generational conversation marking the Laundromat Project's 20-year anniversary. Tonight, we're gathered with our guiding leaders, Risë Wilson, the organization's founder, Kemi Ilesanmi, our inaugural executive director, and Petrushka Bazin Larsen, the first director of programs for the organization. Their visions, dedication, and care shaped the LP from a dream into the vibrant organization you see today. Together, they will reflect on the early sparks that inspired the LP, the intentional leadership transitions that sustained its growth, and the role of mentorship and legacy in carrying our mission forward across decades. And we're at decades now, it's 20 years, we're more than one decade. It feels especially meaningful to host this conversation here at the Schomburg during its centennial year. It's a reminder of the critical importance of supporting Black institution building, especially in moments when our value is questioned and our ability to share raw, unfiltered histories is under attack. These institutions are sacred spaces for truth-telling, memory-keeping, and world-building. They deserve our care and protection. In many tastes, and also in many ways tonight, we're returning to the source. As Novella shared, many of you know this, but I want to uplift our moderator this evening, the incomparable Dr. Deborah Willis, artist, scholar, and chair of the Department of Photography and Imaging at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. Began her career right here serving as curator of the Schomburg's Photographs and Prints division. Her own extraordinary work in building institutions and nurturing artists places her firmly within a lineage of Black women cultural leaders all across New York City, those such as Jean Blackwell Hudson right here in Harlem at the Schomburg, all the way to Joan Maynard at Weeksville in Brooklyn. The conversation tonight will ask, how does this legacy continue today? How do personal experience, artistic practice, and leadership philosophies shape the work of building and sustaining transformative cultural spaces? Through personal stories, moments of reflection, and visions for the future, we will explore art as a tool for self-determination while honoring the LP's past and imagining its next 20 years. This tonight is a meditation on echo, the reverberation of our voices, our impact, and our care, and also on seed, what takes root, what grows, and what blossoms into the future. On a recent trip home to New Orleans, I made my usual stop at Baldwin & Company bookstore in Elysian Fields. I hope folks have been. If you have not, please put it on your list. I was with my grandmother, and I kid you not, as I was browsing, a book fell off the shelf onto the ground in front of me. You can call my grandmother and ask her. I will give you her number. The book was Richard Wright's Black Boy. Of the Black classics, it's one I haven't yet read, but I plan to. Clearly, the universe has dared me. And as I skimmed, a quote, one of the most well-known, jumped out at me, and it felt particularly aligned with this moment, with the trajectory of the LP, and with all of those who have nurtured it from seed to what we celebrate today. I would hurl words into this darkness and wait for an echo. And if an echo sounded, no matter how faintly, I would send other words to tell, to march, to fight, to create a sense of hunger for life that gnaws in us all. This feels like more than a coincidence. It feels divine, meant to be, etched into the stars, much like that book falling into my path. In our new mini documentary video, which you saw a little clip of, beautifully edited and produced by LP alum Ariel Knight, Risë reflects on those early years when people questioned her ambition, urged her to shrink her vision. Yet, like Richard Wright waiting for echoes, she seized every faint opening to keep building, keep grounding, seeding, and growing. And from those seeds came a community institution rooted in love, art and creativity, and the belief that neighbors hold the power to transform their own worlds around them. Because at its heart, our organizations are made of people with dreams, aspirations, and visions of their own. And it's a beautiful thing when those individual desires align to create something larger than ourselves. That is what the LP represents and what this conversation will hold space for tonight. I was recently gifted a book by our board chair, Ashima Agarwal. Thank you, Ashima. I see you. Yay, thank you, Ashima. The book was titled Quantum Listening by Pauline Oliveros. Its teaching on deep listening is simple yet profound and reminds us that deep listening is the foundation for a radically transformed social matrix in which compassion and love are the core motivating principles guiding creative decision-making and our actions in the world. Tonight, I invite you to practice that type of listening. What will you take away from this gathering? What seeds will you sow from the gems of knowledge shared here? What echoes of affirmation will you carry forward from the stories and the calls to action that arise? This evening is not just a look back, but a chance to plant together, to echo forward, to imagine the next 20 years of possibilities. What excites me most about the LP's next chapter is that we get to imagine together with all of you. From the original ideas sparked by Risë as a social enterprise, to the community building seeded through our early programs under Petrushka's guidance, to the deep institution building advanced during Kemi's tenure, and personally, her nurturing of me. We have always had our sights set on systems change. Sorry, there we go. We were never meant to be small in vision. Our actions have always been made possible and made larger through community, collaboration, partnership, possibility, and most importantly, abundance. From our flagship artist development programs and community engagement initiatives in Bed-Stuy to our new zero-interest loan program for alumni, these are seeds that lead to future possibilities like social ventures and community-led impact investments, liberatory investment practices that your support, your ideas, and presence can make possible. We're all just here trying to make sure we all get free. In this current moment, as we face growing attacks on artistic expression, human expression, narrative justice, and the telling of our histories, our charge is very clear. We must continue to seed and to echo. As a reminder, the LP was never meant to be small. Our goal has always been to remake broken systems, old ways of being, to better serve us all. So I ask you, as you listen tonight, consider not only the echoes of the past, but the seeds you might plant with us for the next 20 years in the next evolution of our organizing capacity. What will you help grow? What will you make possible? Together we can ensure that this institution remains not only rooted in community, but thriving, an echo that resounds and a seed that keeps giving life. Thank you for joining us tonight. And so I have the additional honor of reintroducing you all to the folks on this panel and this conversation this evening, these incredible women here on the stage. Our moderator, Dr. Deborah Willis, artist, scholar, and chair of the Department of Photography and Imaging at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, and also director of NYU's Center for Black Visual Culture, the Institute of African American Affairs. We're also joined by Risë Wilson, founder of the LP in Brooklyn and the forthcoming Carriage House Project in Philly, which I'm very excited about, who comes with a 26-year tenure in arts and culture that span philanthropic practice, artist development, facilitation, and public engagement. We have Kemi Ilesanmi, our inaugural executive director and current founder and principal of KGI Projects, cultivating strong and sustainable Black and brown arts ecosystems in the US and the African diaspora. And last but not least, Petrushka Bazin Larsen, the LP's first director of programs and co-founder of the best ice cream shop in the world. Sugar Hill Creamery, Harlem's first family-owned ice cream shop. And so I will turn it to you all.
Through, as you reminded me, through the Smithsonian in the 90s to today in terms of talked often. But Risë, I totally remember our time in New York, in the classroom. And so it's really important to think about how important this evening is for all of us. But also I'd like to thank Joy and Novella, as well as Ayesha, for introducing us tonight and for the invitation to be here. These are my dear friends. So my first question is, who taught you how to love? Each one of you. Mike. Try it in your hand, see what works. No. How about yours? So none of the mics are working, sounds like. Orlando, you did a great job putting us together, yeah. All right, I think about it, I'm just going to project for now, but when I think about the aspect of love, this project is built on love, you know, and it was built in a discussion in my classroom when Risë talked about the class that we had in terms of, I think the class was Beauty Matters, and we were talking about ideas and final projects through our lifetime, what things we'd like to do for the class. But one of the things I learned from each one of them, that each love deeply, and love in our communities and families deeply. So that's why I wanted to start off with that question, so that, because I love working with all three of you. You know, I remember we were on the street corner in Flatbush talking about your new apartment. Just the idea of work. Work for us was joy. It wasn't drudge. So that's something that we also shared. When Ayesha described the history of the project, of the LP project, I also, thought about the ingenuity that Petrushka always entered when she entered the classroom. She had ideas that, calm down. She'd have this joyful moment, smiling, and she would continually just keep everyone moving in the classroom. And the hard part for me was that when I first came back, I was going through chemo and radiation, and this breast cancer surgery. All of this was happening to me in my first dream job at the Schomburg. My dream job was the Schomburg. But my second dream job was New York University. But Petrushka was able to guide me and Akin, the two of them, to relax, because I knew I had to work, and I knew I had to get treatments, and they were able to keep me going through the classroom. So it's a special honor, to be here because of having a student like Petrushka during that time period. So how's the mic going now? We got the mic?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes. Hey, excellent. So thank you for unpacking that question. And so I think I'm realizing that why it is hard is that it wasn't one single person. And I think what you are lifting up is that I had so many people pour into me from the time that I was born. I had so many people pour into me. Yeah, I only know love as a verb, right? And I only know love of my folks as a verb. It's involuntary, right? You asking that question is also making me realize that that practice of loving evolves. That practice of loving is it's the both and. It's not just loving the beauty, right? It's when someone tests your nerves, right? Like it's the full expanse of being accepted and loved on. Yeah, wow, that is an enormous question. I'm gonna go home and ponder deeply. But yeah, I think there's a saying that healing only happens in community, and that is in part because, we hold up a mirror to each other. And so love is this ever evolving lesson. It can only happen by being in relationship, right? And not just from the like warm and fuzzy stuff. Yeah. Drop the mic, Deb. Okay.
Yes. Beautifully put. Certainly, love does happen in community, and I certainly learned love in community and continue to do that in all of its iterations of what love can be and feel like and lead to. But for this question, I turn to where I often turn to when I think about the heart of hearts of who helped to make me who I am, which are my two grandmothers. My grandmother from Maryland on my mother's side was Cora Elizabeth Miles, and we lived with her for my first 2.5 years with my grandfather and extended family, certainly. She was someone who just loved us in every way that she knew possible, and sometimes in ways that we didn't always understand, but always knew was coming from a place of care. And one of the many ways that showed up was in the extensive Avon products that I received every Christmas. And that she collected all year and paid for all year for her, she had 8 children, my mom is 7 of 8, and many grandchildren, and we always knew that we would get the most amazing, beautiful care packages every Christmas. I did not live here for a lot of my growing up years, so just think about that. And then in Nigeria, I did not get to meet Florence Omolola Ilesanmi until I was 6, which is when I moved to Nigeria. We never spoke the same language. She spoke Yoruba, I only spoke English. And still we managed to communicate, to love, I spent summers with her along with my sister. These were the women who showed me what it was like to love the family and to be the matriarchs of their families, of our families, of my families, and how to just care for one another. And those are the two people that I think about for that question. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Well, without sounding like a broken record, obviously, my family, but I think what I'd like to add is that all of these women on this stage were part of that. Like, I have known them from when I was a little bitty thing. And they all played a very integral and instrumental role in my development as a person. And they were all my bosses at some point in my life. And it's amazing. It's truly amazing. I don't know, seeing yourself in advertisement, it's important, right? Seeing yourself at work is really important. And I got to work with some amazing and for some very amazing, smart, sharp, loving Black women. And it truly shaped who I am today and how I show up in my workplace. And So, y'all, that's it. That's where I learned. I learned from y'all.
That's fascinating because I think about my own experience when I met Risë, her grandmother, when I was a student of 21 years old, I worked for her, and she had a project, was head of a project in Philadelphia called the Resident Advisory Board, and she was actively finding housing and homes for single women, and was having that experience as a work-study student, as we talked about. It taught me a lot about community, and that aspect, and to know some years later that you would be in my classroom. And so to think about Rose Wiley, and to know that her legacy continues through the love of community. But when you walked here, we're here in the Schomburg, and we know Schomburg is a visionary place, and that it envisioned the future. You know, Arthur Schomburg understood the past, but also envisioned a future. And I'm proud to be a part of that. But when you walked in the room, what did you feel, and how can you describe your journey with the Laundromat Project in relationship to Schomburg, Jean Blackwell Hudson through that period? Well, thank Ayesha, she's out here. Thank you.
Okay, well, so we were in a green room, and there's all these wonderful photos of different icons of Black history, cultural history. That was deep, right? Just to be in this space of realizing that there are all these folks that traveled through this physical space, and to be part of that echo and that conversation. And then to realize, I guess this is sort of the piece around the connection to Laundromat Project. Wow, okay, this is a meandering answer, but stay with me. So, one, I went to Columbia. I have a lot of feelings about. I'm glad that you're having a good experience. I'm not gonna take that away from you. You go, own it, claim it. I'm serious, because I felt like people were like, how'd you sneak in the back door? How'd you get in here? It was not a pleasant experience. So I tried to spend as much time off campus, right? And so Columbia has an exchange program with Howard. Random, super random, but I was grateful. And so I spent a semester at Howard and got to be in their library, right? And it is like the Schomburg, right? Where it is Mecca of us. I just look around and it was like, oh. You know, at Columbia, if I found 2 books about us, I was like, hey. And then I was just surrounded, right? And so some of the things I was reading were about the kind of community-based arts programs that happened in places like the Schomburg, but all over, right? Happened in DC, happened in New York, happened in Philly, that then trained folks like Samela Lewis, who would then go on to train so many other Black artists, right? In this ripple, and this ripple, and this ripple, and this ripple. And so I was reading about Elizabeth Catlett coming out of that kind of program, right? Elizabeth Catlett was an artist who had so much impact on me as a printmaker, and I had thought about printmaking for the Laundromat Project because I wanted something that was deeply accessible, right? Like, it's wonderful to have beauty, but the whole point of this project was about bringing all of this to our doorstep. And so if someone was inspired, could they do that at home, right? Did they need a lot of money to participate in this? No. And so when I stepped into the green room and I saw all of these icons, and I realized, like, oh, this is just, again, this reverberation, and to be part of that feels cuckoo. You know, it's anyone that knows me, in fact, I think you would tell me all the time, stop hedging. Like, I am a very humble person. It gives me hives to just talk about myself, right? Ego is not what drives me. But this was a moment where I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think I did something, you know? Like, I'm gonna claim that. And it's amazing, it's surreal, it's beautiful. I'm grateful.
But how did you, in the classroom, when you described this project that you wanted to complete on paper during that semester, what were you thinking about? Family, art, love?
So I actually applied to NYU with the Laundromat Project as a vision. So I came to grad school already. We celebrate the incorporation date, which was 20 years ago, but the organization was founded in 1999. So there was 6 years of grinding to even get to that point, right? And so once I arrived in your classroom, this is maybe year 4, year 3, somewhere in there, and I had already been thinking so much about the organizing principle of my life is our freedom and our well-being. And yes, I love art, but it was always in service of our freedom and well-being. And so I was literally in the midst of a project of organizing my life around helping to somehow contribute to our liberation. And I happen to believe that art, making art specifically, was a practice space for us being able to locate our vision and bring that into the world. And so every choice I made for those first 6 years was about advancing that theory of change. That included graduate school and being in your class and studying the image and the history of us circulating in the public imagination, in our own imagination. It included studying the Black radical imagination and understanding how art had played a very active role in liberation movements over time, right, in the diaspora. I was wrestling with the underpinnings of why this all mattered, even as I took some of the more practical studio-based courses and the mechanics of like exhibition design. I was working at MoMA full-time and going to school full-time, and that was crazy. But just organizing all of my choices around, I believe this to be true, let me test out this belief, let me understand the history of how art and culture has helped us get to where we are and will help continue to free us. And then just got at it, right? Of like, who do I need to know? What are the relationships? What are the skills I need to know? All the things. So by the time I was in your class, so much had been percolating. I don't know if you know, all the envelopes that are on the altar is what I gave to you in that class. It had like the mission and the, org chart and the revenue model. Like, I was trying to do it. And so, grad school for me was not just a dress rehearsal. Like, that was for real. And all of the raw elements of the organization that exists today were present even then. Yeah.
Okay. So one final question,
Okay.
and then we'll move forward.
Okay.
But why the laundromat as a place?
Yes. So, you're talking about Petrushka having so many ideas? I had so many ideas. I had so many ideas, and I was wide-eyed, and I would talk to anybody about what I wanted to do, and I was like, oh, I want to bring art to where people are, and blah, 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 blah. And people were really generous and let me beat their ear. And I was actually having a conversation with someone who was the managing director at Freedom Theater in Philadelphia, and he listened very patiently. We were walking down the street. He walked out of his way to, listen to me. And he was like, how are you going to pay for that? I was like, I have a corporate background as well. And I was like, I don't know why I hadn't thought about that, but I guess I'm going to think about that now. And so initially I thought of like bodegas, this is where people are. But there was so much visual information in the bodega already that didn't feel like the right environment. And then I thought about a bingo parlor. Again, that's where we are, but how's that gonna work? No, right? And so just had kind of gone down this list and then realized that a laundromat was this place of downtime, right? Where you had a kind of captive audience. And at the time, it was like Jerry Springer on the TV. I feel like we can do better. And then realizing like, oh, it's not only a great venue contextually, but from a business model, this is checking off all the boxes of accessibility, from a kind of geographic accessibility, a cultural accessibility. It was also the kind of space I felt like people would have a sense of power, that it would be odd enough to encounter this kind of experience in this space, but the space belongs to you, is familiar to you, and there would be enough of a like, what y'all doing, you know? It wouldn't just feel like a performance. Like folks could feel like this was level and could engage. So there were so many things I was trying to solve for, and the laundromat just kind of checked off all of those boxes.
Okay, thank you. Kemi, you had multiple backgrounds in terms of the arts, but what made you decide? Can you talk about what brought you to the Laundromat Project from your previous position and deciding to be the visionary that moved it forward after?
So forgive me, because some people have heard this story, but it's one that I love telling. I moved to New York in mid-September 2004 and met Risë 2 weeks later because the now writer Jamel Brinkley was having a brunch, and he invited his friends. And there were 30 or 40 people. It was like a big brunch. And we found each other in that crowd. Maybe someone introduced us, not sure. And she started to tell me about the Laundromat Project. And I had
Prior to that, you were?
I was at the Walker Art Center as a curator. I had moved to New York City without a job, I committed to the city and figure out what to do with myself once I got here. And that it would still be in the arts and connected, but not curating. I'd sort of figured out that the traditional notion of curating wasn't for me. But while I was at the Walker, I, along with curating exhibitions and doing all the wonderful things, I had an incredible 6 years at the Walker. And for most of those years, I ran our residency program. And it was all about connecting artists to the greater community. And I worked with Glenn Ligon and Mary Ward and Christian Markley and Kathy Opie and like all these incredible, incredible artists for years at a time, connecting them to community. So I got to know Minneapolis and the greater Twin Cities through art and artists and partnerships and community. So our bond at that brunch was she was talking about the Laundromat Project, and I'm talking about, well, actually, I just finished several years of, I was a curator, but I also did this work, and it was really exciting to me, and it was a wonderful way to connect to community, et cetera. So we just had a spark that came, and we stayed in touch, and a year later, once incorporation happened, which was July the next year, 2005, hey, 20 years, Risë reached out and asked if I would join the board. She had 3 incredible women, Black women who were already part of it, and was looking to build out just a little bit more. And I was able to join in January 2006. So that was just one of my many roles that I've had at the LP, from that to advisor, to staff member, to supporter, to all the things that I've so happily over these last 20 years worn every hat and look forward to others along the way. But just to, how did I even transition? So I was on the board for 5 years, helping to build it out, being there for those first set of artists, being there for the second set of artists when we did interviews at my office in Creative Capital, Stephanie and all the folks, Stephanie Dinkins, and holding board meeting, all the things, like really feeling invested, getting to know New York City in the similar echoes of the way that I'd gotten to know the Twin Cities, because New York City was new to me. And I went to grad school, NYU, Wagner, public administration. I wrote in all of my, I applied there, and New School and Baruch, I think, were my 3. And I wrote my essay like, yeah, I want to go to grad school and get an MPA so that I could be the executive director of an organization like the Laundromat Project. Because I was like, I think that's what they want to hear. And I didn't yet mean it, partially because I was like, I didn't believe Risë when she said she didn't officially want to hold the role of executive director. She was doing the work, so let's not get confused. But I didn't believe her, so I was just writing it because I was like, this is how you get into grad school. And then in my my second year of grad school, my graduating year of grad school, Risë and I had dinner in my neighborhood in November. I tend to, certain dates kind of stay with me, y'all. And for whatever reason, it was the first time I heard you when you said you did not want that role. And it opened up a pathway that had just been talk into like, oh, wait a minute. And I went away for vacation. And then I called, this is November, I went away for, Christmas vacations, winter break. I had this epiphany on vacation. I called Risë, we had brunch. I was like, come girl, let's just have brunch. Don't worry, just meet me for brunch. January 2nd or 3rd, whatever, it was like literally like New Year's. And like right after, and then I said, what do you think about if I came on board as our first, full-time and executive director. And, the conversation went from there. There was a process. There were board members. There were people. There was money to raise. But that was the moment. It was very early January 2012, and by September, I was in the role. So it took a while. It took planning. It took research. It took a whole process of interviewing, like all of that. But I could see, I knew what Risë was trying to build. Petrushka was already on board. I was bought in, all limbs, everything with my whole body was in that thing. And I wanted to help do the next stage.
Can I add to that? Because what she left out is I was like, don't play with me. Don't play with my emotions. Because, and I didn't realize that you didn't believe me. And I think a lot of people didn't believe me. Like I would say, founder is a forever title. It's not a forever role in terms of the day-to-day work, right? And if you think about so many institutions that celebrate, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and the founder is still there. No, right? And I say that for both the institution and the person's sake, right? And it's no shade, because, some of those folks are my friends, And what I had seen is the way that an organization would, like, have you ever seen a fence grow into a tree, right? Or a tree grow into a fence? That it was like that. Like, you could not separate these two beings and, threaten the sustainability of the organization. But it also, that person had nowhere else to go. Their entire identity was wrapped up in this one thing. But also that person's genius didn't get to be deployed in other directions, right? It's very finite. And so there's a lot here that was completely divine. And then there's a lot here that was very intentional, right? And so when Kemi's talking about holding these multiple roles, Kemi is a unicorn, but the roles existing was by design. Like in building an institution, it was important that there would be pathways for artists to become faculty, to become staff, to become board members, that someone could be a supporter, but then also get on the board or be on the advisory committee and select the artists or be a mentor, that there had to be these multiple pathways into the organization, because I don't know who, maybe it's Ayesha who said, organizations are people, right? Like we talk about institutions in abstraction, we talk about them as structures, and that's true, but that's true maybe kind of at their worst. Like the core is about people. And then if that is the guiding force, is these relationships, it all comes together. I'm not saying it comes together easily. I'm not saying that. But it comes together. And there's all kinds of magic that fills in the gaps. So anyway, yeah, just to say,
But just to follow that with, as you say, people. So let's go to Petrushka. When we think about people building and bringing people together, so before the Laundromat Project, where were you?
Well, the job that Kemi described having at the Walker is the job that I wanted to have, right? I went to grad school for curatorial practice. I studied under Deb for undergrad in photography, the photography and imaging department. It was there that I started taking community-based classes, and I was like, ooh, art, community, this is interesting. And then I started organizing exhibitions in public spaces, and then I was like, well, go to grad school, right? And I went to grad school, and I chose a program that was really pushing the boundaries of what an exhibition could be. I wasn't really interested in just doing museum four-wall exhibitions. I've always been interested in bringing people together and connecting through some other catalyst. And I graduated. I had the great fortune of graduating in 2008. Okay. There are not a lot of curatorial jobs on any day, but especially in 2008, very few. And so when I was in that program, I was like, I really want to work with artists, and I want to support them in their practice and build connections. And there were none of those jobs. And so, but I came back to the relationships that I had formed when I was an undergrad. It's like, who's doing interesting work? Oh, I remember Risë. Let me reach out to her. So I was like, hi, can I take you out for an informational interview? Which is what I was doing in all of 2008. And while I was also waiting tables, I happened to meet my husband during that time also. Didn't know he was gonna be my boo. Didn't know. But I said, hey, I would love to do whatever it is you're doing, and support you in whatever way. And that's how we came to be. But prior to that, it was through the practice of making art and then through the practice of bringing people together with art as the catalyst that got me juiced up,
But talk about the programs.
Oh, the program. Talk about, okay. Yeah.
Right, the first employee, how did you develop the programs?
We did it, okay? We are here. So when I reached out to Risë, I was like, hey, what are you up to? I went to your website, which you don't remember this, but I was so impressed. I was like, she's got a website and there are artists on it and there's a residency program. That's exactly what I want to do. So it's like, tell me what I can do. And you were like, well, we're bringing in the next cohort of artists and residents, and maybe you want to be a part of that selection process. And, you can help me design it and, rethink it a little bit. I said, great. We met at the library in Bed-Stuy, Macon, that's right, because we have Macomb Bridge Library up here. I get confused. Anyway, so I just started working with the artists. It was an interesting, I remember that day very clearly. There was a lot going on, okay? But we will save that. The point is, I just jumped into what Risë had started, which was working with contemporary artists who already had a practice. They had a studio practice, they had an exhibition history, but they were interested in people beyond their practice. The people were not the material of their work. They were genuinely interested in people. And so we were trying to just kind of tease out, how can we structure this residency so that a contemporary artist with a studio practice can come to this program, not feel like it's so different, but be complementary. Because in some cases, they hadn't had the experience of working in the setting that we had given them, their local laundromat. And so that was in and of itself a whole thing. And through that, I learned, I was like, well, there are a lot of artists. Because keep in mind, the Artist in Residency program was designed for artists of color who are in New York and primarily in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, and in Harlem. And so, but through doing the call, we did open call for the residency. There were a lot of people who were like, well, I don't fit that, for any number of reasons, but I'm really interested in this work that you all are doing. And so then, me being the entrepreneur that I am, and I still am, I was like, we need to build a fellowship. And the fellowship, the artists will pay. And that was, and we have since found other funding streams for that. They weren't paying anything out of the ordinary. It was just really, it was a way of generating another revenue stream for the organization, but in a way that was manageable and that created a buy-in, right? Because we were doing so much, and I wanted to make sure that I was showing up, that you were going to show up too, with your full self. And so, some capitalism, y'all. Money will do that. But no. But I'm saying no. That's my comment on like when we pay for something. Unfortunately, we value it a little bit more than when somebody just gives it to us. I think that's very unfortunate, but it is sadly the way that many things are. So we had that investment so that everybody was bought in, but that investment was not a big investment. You know, like it was still attainable and accessible. And so we just built from there. We built a community of artists that may not have been eligible for the residency, but definitely wanted to fine tune and hone their practice of working in community and bring that sensibility to their practice wherever they were living and working in the city.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna brag on you a little bit. So, you know, the Create Change program initially was exclusively artists of color. And I remember when you suggested the fellowship and that was going to be open to everyone. And I was like, I don't feel like that's what the mission is, right? And so that's why I'm saying, like, I know it was more than capitalism and just revenue model. And I know you clarify that. But I want to, you know, credit you for expanding my own mindset about who could belong to the LP family and the way that a wide variety of folks could show up. And it, I think, spawned even more intention in us because we had to be really articulate about our values, about, I don't know, kind of community agreements. I don't know, I'm failing in the language, but I think there's things that we might have taken for granted if we did not expand and make this a much more inclusive project and I had just been in my tunnel vision, which I am known to do. So just want to. That was a significant trajectory shift for the organization you suggest in the fellowship.
But we have about 10 minutes left. Yeah, I know, we could sit for hours. Haven't gotten half the questions Ayesha has put together, that Ayesha has put together. But I just want to, you know, like tie in, but I know Petrushka had you wanted to say something.
No, go ahead.
But I'm going to go back and forth because one of the wonderful points that Ayesha brought together is the legacy of Jean Blackwell Hudson, who shaped this place, the Schomburg, then also Joan Maynard in Weeksville. So when we think about Black women in leadership, we know about a different kind of expression. And so when we think about the LP treats art as more than expression, it's a way to claim power. Can you share a moment when you saw that in action? We know how Mrs. Hudson found this wonderful ways to raise money to build this library in the community, to build it, to move to this new building from the old building, and just getting community to develop and continue to broaden this place. But I'm just curious, because we only have about 10 minutes.
Yes. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there one particular moment? No. The thing I was going to say is that the Laundromat Project is a movement. Mm-hmm. And with movement building, it's not one event, right? It's all of the small incremental things that compound into, whoa, we are doing something collectively. So for me, it's not.
But one second, before you do that, while you're thinking this through, if you could plant one seed, an idea, a value, or a dream for the LP's next 20 years, what would it be?
Well, I think it's what I said in the video. It's like the organization working with its whole community of artists, of supporters, neighbors, right, for actual like change, like policy change, right? Like, what are the topics that are pressing and needed that need a movement behind it? And how is a Laundromat well, not how, but the Laundromat Project, if the seed that I'm planting, it will be an organizing force around moving these things forward for progress. That's my seed.
So many things come to mind in stringing together a few of those questions, Dr. Deb. One of the things that I think has been when I think about the librarians who started this, contributed to what the Schomburg is now, to places like Weeksville, these places that are still standing 100 years later, 50 years later. Studio Museum is down the street, Apollo. This particular row speaks to Black institution building in a way that maybe no Black American institution building in a way that perhaps no other place can, and sitting in this geography. So the institution building bit feels really important. So Ayesha's on the board of the Black School in New Orleans, which I think of as a seed, certainly in community with the Laundromat Project, and both of those founders went through the Create Change program and have been friends with the LP and worn many hats. Shani worn many LP hats over the years. Ola Ronke is here, and the Free Black Women's Library. Another incredible seed and sibling, child, all the things of the Laundromat Project, and so many artists who have over the years built things that will last, as well as made things that were a spark or a catalyst in the moment that they were needed. I don't think everything needs to be forever, but it does need to be for its time. And the artists that the Laundromat Project has supported over time have done all the kinds of building and seeding and tilling. And that's what I hope when I look forward, when I think 20 years down the line, 50 years down the line, I'm really curiously excited about what those seeds will be in the future that come from this community, built on love, built through the vision of several Black women and different folks being in deep community already for 20, 25, 26, 27 years already, and kind of projecting forward.
So what I'm going to add is seeds carry on the wind. And so 20 years, 50 years, the Laundromat Project has franchised and is in multiple locations across this country. And here, there's a land trust. The beauty, what I feel most proud of, and I think I said that in the video, what I feel most proud of is that there are so many folks that have now moved through, I love this piece around movement, this community, this family, but they're not static, right? Like, they don't all live in New York. They're out in the world, and they bring this way of being and this way of approaching living wherever they go. This feels especially potent in this time when there is an active, a concerted campaign to erase fact, to degerminate what we know to be true. And when you tuck the truth into people and then you send them off into the world, you cannot shut it down, right? That's my dream, is that wherever we are, we've now taken root and we have a place to build on that.
Well, thank you. That was fantastic. As we think about the Laundromat Project, it is a mentoring project. You have mentored many artists, and we've mentored each other.
Right.
We've mentored each other. Right. Exactly. So I'd like to say thank you for this enlightening, beautiful evening, and open up the lights so that we can have a few minutes of questions and responses. Can't believe the time. Yeah. We were having a ball. Yeah. So is there a mic, someone at the mic? Any questions? Okay. Can we open the house lights or keep the house lights open for us? So we can see folks. Right.
Hello. Hi, my name is Tochi. Thank you so much for this talk. I actually didn't realize how many of my friends were part of the Laundromat Project until I signed up for this event and looked at the website. I was like, oh, there's, and they're always making art, and they're always doing these things. I just didn't know. What you're doing is very cool. Okay, my question. You had said that the Laundromat Project is a movement, and then you defined that movement as something that exists as a series of small incremental things, I'll call them. And I'm curious to know if the goal was to be a movement, or if you were just focused on the next incremental thing, and then over time it just became a movement. Like, did you have an end goal, or were you just like, hey, this would be a cool thing to do, and then you did the cool thing that invited another cool thing? Or is it just like a long-term cool thing, and you're walking to it? Yeah, that's my question.
Health lights, please. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm speaking for Risë, but that's because I know her very well. The whole ideation of the Laundromat Project was to be a revolutionary act set in a community that would then ultimately scale, just as she has portrayed in this vision 50 years from now. So everything that has happened while divine has also been very intentional. So it wasn't like, oh, we'll just like hang out with the artists and like make art, right? It's like, no, we are going to get free and we are going to use art to do it, right? And the agents of art, artists, right? And Risë also is an artist, and she talked about how printmaking was the medium that she gravitated to because of its accessibility and because, well, it's a beautiful medium. But there was never whimsy or just like carefree happenstance has never been the name of the game. Okay. So it's the vision initially was localized, but localized to then duplicate and to model so that we could all collectively as a society be free, you know?
The idea, so, okay, thank you for that. And also, there was a discussion on how you started the...
Is there another person that has a question before?
I'm sorry.
Just so that we can make sure
Okay.
we cover it, because I cannot see anyone.
Okay.
Huh?
Oh, okay. The fellowship, that was something that you hadn't planned, but you were open to that pivot. So I'm also curious, like, I know nothing was happenstance, but like, how far ahead were you thinking before you just like, I can't even,
I think I understand what you're asking.
Okay.
Because it's a balance, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, there was lots of strategy, there was lots of planning.
Yeah.
And you also have to stay open to learning and
Right.
evolving and growing and responding. And so, yes, there was strategy around how to build out the roles that people could play, being very intentional about who was invited into the life of the project.
Yeah.
But then when it's like you throw a party, right? And you have a menu and it's cool and you have a playlist, and then, the vibe can change based on who shows up to the party.
Yeah.
And you could be like, that's not what I just, I said we were gonna do board games. What
Yeah.
happened, Or you could dance, right? And so it's this balance between what we set out to do and then what we learned and how we would pivot. Because to your point about it being, I've never thought about it as a movement. I love this language. As long as it hewed to the underlying organizing principle around us getting free,
Got you.
great.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be rigid.
Got you. That's an amazing answer. Thank you so much.
Hello? That's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, so the question, if it wasn't heard, was the role of philanthropy in building these kinds of grassroots community institutions. especially now. So Laundromat Project was my 5 to 9, while my 9 to 5 was philanthropy. I have a lot of thoughts. I will say that one of the books that I read at 16, I discovered Zora Neale Hurston, and I discovered her biography. And she talked about the patrons that made her work possible, made Langston Hughes's work possible, and having to itemize, here's my tampons and how much they cost. Here's my food and how much it cost. And the kind of dehumanizing, funky style part of philanthropy. Obviously grateful to be able to make this art and make this work, but the trade-off, right? And so it was very, very important to me that we were never dependent on philanthropy. And yet, here we are, 20 years later, and it's purely been about individual and institutional generosity. Okay. I want us to continue to be funded. So this is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say, philanthropy exists because of capitalism. It's a kind of reparations. It needs to continue until we have a different kind of economic system. And it requires a kind of courage to be moved by what is necessary and not by ego and not by fear. That is not necessarily baked into philanthropy as a sector. It requires folks like us to be in not just the program officer spaces, but on the board, right? It requires a humility to understand that just because I have the checkbook doesn't mean I have the expertise. It requires us to also remember that Susu's got us here. The number runner got us here. There is so much power in our own pockets. So I think the invitation is how do we return back to the idea that we are the people that we've been waiting for and figure out how to fund the thing that needs to get funded, period.
We're going to go over here, and then we'll go to the question over there. And also, if there are any other questions in the audience, I'm going to implore you to please use the mics at the back of the room. That is the way that we are able to get it on the recording for others to enjoy the program at a later date. Over here.
Very quickly before he asks a question, I also wanted to add on to just pick up where you were going about where the ones we're waiting for. One of the things that I'm really proud of that we got to do towards the end of my tenure at the LP was really to start thinking about our own financial muscle within community. So by then we had resituated ourselves after about 6 or 7 years in Harlem, which I miss, to Bed-Stuy, which is where Risë was in her New York years and very much a home place for the LP. And we moved our money, a significant portion of our money, to a community credit union that funds first-time home buyers in Bed-Stuy and East New York in a 5 or 6 neighborhood geography, that funds small businesses, that has a program that is deeply invested in DEI and all the things that are now, the bad words. And we moved our money to a bank that thinks about equity in their mission. And we made an investment policy around that. We started doing microgrant funding and things that were about, where money is coming in through philanthropy as well as people powered, which is coming up. I'm just going to throw that out there for you. So a community fundraiser that started way back in 2013. Ways to point to the fact to plant those seeds going forward that are about here's how we can do it for ourselves, even if we can't do all of it for ourselves right now. But these are the seeds we're planting about what it looks like to model for ourselves, to test things for ourselves, and to continue to nurture that muscle in us in different kinds of ways, trying to be creative about investing in community more largely.
Good evening. My name is Lilac Burrell. I'm a writing artist. Question for you, but just thinking within like the notes that I've kind of picked up from you all. You mentioned 2004, 2008, you know, we all know 2020, thinking about like change, innovation. And when I'm thinking of change, I'm thinking of Octavia Butler's like God is change. And of course, in lieu of one of my favorite questions, what is it? What advice would you give to your younger self? It's not that, we're almost there. What have you learned from responding to technology and capital disruptive forces when innovating spaces for radical change?
Oh, am I?
I should say that my life right now is 100% ice cream. But it has 100% been shaped by the work that I did at the Laundromat Project. It has 100% been informed by the vision that Risë had for the organization. And we embody those values in the space that we create. So when it comes to technology, like I think of this, like our stores as third spaces. And third spaces are needed anywhere, but they're especially needed in New York, where we're all moving and quickly doing our things and not talking to each other and not asking. Like a space of comfort, of being, that doesn't have like, it's not the doctor's office, it's not, you know, it's like, the utility is connection and comfort without a directed mission, if you will, other than those things, right? Like a public space that is comfortable. You know what I'm thinking. Okay,
A third space
ask me to define this, okay.
A third space is a space that's not specifically home or work.
Yes.
Something where life, you know,
Happens.
moves outside of it.
Yes, familial, you know, but not your house, not your living room. And New York, we don't got a lot of space. So, you know, you can't fraternize with all 28 of your friends sometimes in your living room because it's not that big, right? So in the face of the digital moment that we're in, where it's easy for us to go inward and just be connecting with, I put this in quotes, connecting with our people digitally from our phones, where literally a room is quiet because everybody's scrolling. The business that we have is informed by all of the work that the Laundromat Project is in connecting people and making a loud space that you can talk and you can sit, and you don't need to spend, to sit in New York over food, you're going to spend at least $100, at least. And to think about being able to sit somewhere where the barrier to entry is a scoop of ice cream is actually quite revolutionary. I mean, as a person who has to pay the rent, right? But do you know what I'm saying? So it's about creating these spaces. It's to Risë's point, like the seed blowing, right? I am a seed from this organization, taking into consideration and integrating these values in anything that we do. This is an example. Create more spaces, you know? Mm-hmm. No?
Hi. Can you guys, well. First and foremost, I want to say that is such a beautiful altar that you have up there. So, lovely. My name is Erica David Johnson, and my question is, you know, in the midst of expanding on the mission for the Laundromat Project and, you know, just having so many ideas and things that you have to do seemingly all at once, how do you stay grounded? Like maybe spiritually, your mind, mentally.
Yes, that is getting more and more challenging. And I'm sure that there's many answers as there are people on this stage, et cetera. But speaking for myself, it has been so much about family. I'm a grandparent, y'all. And looking at the giggles of a 9-month-old will keep you present, because the giggles would turn on you in a minute. And we were giggling, weren't we giggling? And art has always been a big part of my life, before, after, during. I ended up in the arts. because of Dr. Kelly Jones, who's someone that other people, certainly Dr. Deb, is deeply connected to, and was like, you should try this art thing. And I was like, okay. And here I am 30 years later. But loving of art goes back to childhood. And so spending time in art and art spaces and nature and art, nice combo when it happens, is very important. And then I travel a lot. And I think a lot when I travel, and I love to take in new information that travel invites. And some of my travel is like far away, and some of it is like a car ride away. And some of it is surprising. I was in Kentucky a couple weeks ago with my family, and we sort of fell in love with Louisville and have started looking at real estate. It happens. A red state, but a blue dot in a red state, I want to explain. But it allows me to think and see in a new way. I need that to go outside to come back in to see things differently. So that's among the ways that I stay grounded.
Could we all answer this question? And I know there's some other questions, but here's why I want us all to answer this question. So I'm terrible with statistics, but you know, Black women are the least scanned humans inside of like Western medicine, right? So this question is actually really important to this conversation. It's great to build institutions and contribute so much, and it's also been at cost to our personhood, right? The amount of breast cancer, right? The amount of folks that we've lost because we've been overworked. Having a deeply grounded practice of staying well is as salient as having this business plan and community and all the things, right? So you invoked this altar. This altar there's a ring of Black women around this altar, right? So they are very much present with us. What I'll say for myself is that's how I stay grounded, right? Checking in with my people every day, feeding my folks every day, being in deep relationship to plants and plant medicine every day. When we anchor in to our roots, literally getting grounded, right? It also means that we have slowed down long enough and offered ourselves permission, grace to be still and allow and to listen and to know that our worth is not based on what we do. Even though we are on this stage to celebrate all these accomplishments, that is not what makes us worthy.
Beautiful.
What am I going to add to that? I don't know. No, what I do, I ask for help. That is what I do. I give and I also take, because there is no ecosystem without reciprocity. So if you're a constant giver, then that means you're depleted. And if you're a constant taker, well, you need to think about that. But, right, but you, in order to give, you have to receive, and vice versa. And so I stay grounded. I mean, it's a hard question to ask at this season in my life. I have 3 children. They are not quite capable to do things on their own 100%. And so that is a task. I also have a team of, at any given time, 45 people. They need to be paid. And, I got facilities I have to maintain. It's a lot. Like, it's a very hard question to answer. So my answer is I ask for help, because at any given time, I am completely overwhelmed. But their answers are out there, the resources are out there, and there are the people that are willing and wanting to respond. And I can also give in other ways as well. So,
Yes. Dr. Deb?
I don't know what it means to be grounded. I really don't. I'm an Aquarian. I'm always in the air, in the sky. So I don't know what it means to be grounded. Wow. So I can't even answer it. I was listening, trying to figure out what is it. I don't know I don't have an anchor, because I'm taking on everything that I love to do. So I don't know. So yeah, it is a good question to ask, because I've never asked myself about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think that we should end at this point, because we are at the 7:30, half hour after our time, unless Ayesha.
So so we'll go 1 and 2, Last two questions. Ask the question.
Okay.
The
Hi.
question, and then if you want to say other things later to the folks, say other things later to the folks. But we'll go question here, question there, Curtis, and then we'll wrap up.
Amazing, thank you so much. Hi, my name is Preston Fox. I work at the Studio Museum. My question, thinking about the very first question that was asked, who taught you how to love? I'm curious who taught you to be a leader or what inspires your leadership? Thank you.
Very good. Curtis?
Oh my gosh, there's so much pressure. I thought she was going to have your questions answered first. Well, I will be quick, very quick. I love the first question, who taught you to love? And I would just add to that, these women up here taught me how to support Black women in a meaningful, intentional way. I served as board chair, and I had to learn to keep my mouth shut and take a step back. I don't think I had a vision at all. I think I was implementing and doing what Kemi told me to do, and that itself was a task, and it was an exercise in really knowing how to step back as a Black man and lift up the vision of these women on the stage. So
Amazing.
That's my comment. My question is, what has brought you the most joy over the past 20 years as a part of the LP family? Thank you.
So I'm going to ask one of you all to take the question about leadership and another person to take the question about joy.
So I can say that just in terms of having the opportunity to be here is I grew up in a beauty shop. So the women who visited my mother's shop were as diverse as this audience here. And so I listened in terms of the point of close listening. I spent a lot of time listening to women develop their ideas, asked each other questions, answered by many of the women in the room. So that's what helped me through, gave me the opportunity to dream and to have that experience. So growing up in Philly, North Philly. Yes.
Jeez. Joy from over the years of the Laundromat Project.
20 plus.
Jeez, y'all. When y'all ask me to pick, that's mean. I don't have one. I don't have a single moment. It's kind of like what you were saying about the movements. The joy for me is that this is bigger than me. The joy for me is that this, I walk into spaces and I have no idea who folks are, right? And they have this deep relationship to this organization. That means, okay, I did my job, period.
I'd like Ayesha to answer that question.
Yes. I like that idea.
The question I'm answering is the thing what brought me joy. What's one moment that's brought joy over the past 20 years? There you go. The most joy. Oh, gosh. I don't know. Oh. Both and leadership, all of these women here, my grandmother, my mother, my great-grandmother, all the women in my life taught me leadership. They are powerful, badass women, and I appreciate them deeply. I'm going to pull in a brought me joy, and it's two moments that I would say, and it's work that happens behind the scenes that folks don't always get to see externally. We do a lot of work behind the scenes in building the organization. It's a lot of work that's put in to be able to share out and pour into community and into artists. And I think the thing that probably brought me joy is a more contemporary example. Our trip to Montgomery, Alabama. Over the past couple of years, we've been taking staff trips. We've been traveling together as a staff to different cities to learn in place from organizations that are doing aligned work, inspiring work, folks that we want to learn from and grow with and collaborate with. And so in March, I'm looking at the team, April, May, one of those months, we all went together to Montgomery, Alabama and visited EJI and a number of other organizations and institutions in Montgomery. And I think that was a moment that brought me joy because it was a moment of us being in that place that has so much history connected to it and being able to see our work connected to that and that bridge connected to that, I think for me brought even more meaning into what it is that we were doing and the purpose of what we were building, and just a continued example of the ways that the work is carried through. And I think about that when I think about these women here on the stage and the ways that the work has carried through in different iterations through each one of them, and still continues to this day. That's my answer to the question. And then I'll also offer in a closing, because we will have to close, unfortunately, because this could go on and on and on. Like I told you, I don't know, it went in an incredible direction. But yes, Dr. Deb, thank you for the guiding questions.
Yeah.
And guiding, absolutely. But when I think about the continuing bridges, I don't know if you remember this, Risë, but we had dinner maybe a year ago, 2 years ago or so. And it was so funny because you were sharing about the carriage house. And we were like vibing off of like what Risë was doing. I was like, oh my goodness. And I was telling her about all the things that we were thinking about at the LP. And she was like, it's so aligned. Like we're so like in tune. And I'm like, Risë, it's in the DNA. I'm like, of course it is. Because it's like, it's in there. It's absolutely 100% in there. I'm not shocked that it feels familiar. And I think that's something too that I was feeling just in listening to you all. And you all are still deeply connected and a part of the organization, but not a part of the day-to-day. But in everything that you shared was so aligned with what happens in the day-to-day and the vision of the future of the organization. And I think that's a testament to the organization that's been built. It can carry on itself. It's been poured into by so many people, stewarded by so many people, whether formally or informally. It will live an incredible life on its own. We just get the pleasure and the privilege to get to steer its path and steer its way into its future. And so you all held the space so beautifully and so reflective of, I mean, it's completely aligned in what you all experience and see now, today, and what we are visioning together for the future. So I wanted to bring that into the space as well as an extension of your question too. And with that, just a couple like closing thank yous. Thank you to all of you for being here. And for just bringing your energy into the space. And I'm sure there's so many incredible reflections and seeds that are here and things that you all are doing, and incredibly open and looking forward to hearing and continuing to extend the conversation even beyond here. It's a continuing, ever-growing conversation, and so looking forward to more. And of course, deep thanks and gratitude again to Dr. Deb, to Petrushka, to Kemi, to Risë, for your presence, your ever-presence. When I say these folks, it's just a text message, a phone call, an email, and they are always there, readily available to support and to champion and to cheerlead us on. And we could not continue to do the work without that. So deeply grateful for you all. And also to bring the current folks in the room, I want to give a thanks and a shout to Chloe. I think you're still here, Chloe. Sorry to put you on the spot, Chloe, but gratitude, Chloe. Chloe is on the team, but for your partnership and collaboration in organizing this event and also our 20th anniversary programming. This does not close out the 20th anniversary program. We go all the way to next year. We have a lot to celebrate, and we will celebrate, and we will be in joy for the next year, and we hope that y'all will join us for all of that. Also for this event tonight, thanks and gratitude to Munira and to Janae as well for being a part of our team and kind of pulling all of this together and stewarding folks into the space and sharing about the work, as well as a particular highlight, Kos and Sade, around all the messaging to make sure that y'all made it here and knew what you were coming here for. So thank you to y'all, and of course to the entire LP team for all the work that you do every single day. Catherine, Shayna, Issa, Trisha, Angela, Olani, Melanie, Issa, Isaiah. I mentioned Kos, Sade, Arthi, Shan, and our newest staff member, our intern, Jared. And I want to pause too, because for y'all, we got 15 people on the team. I know, right? That's a list. For folks, I'm employee number 5, and I've been with the LP for 10 years, so that just shows the growth of the organization and the work and all that has been brought together in order to continue building and doing what we do. And also our incredible LP board, I have to say the best board. out there. LP board, current, past. Thank you so deeply for your support and your guidance. You all truly are foundational support to allow us to continue to do what we do. You are, I don't even know, I'm just so overwhelmed. I hear stories about boards all the time. You are not that. And I am so deeply, deeply grateful. But honestly, for the thought partnership, for the collaboration, for the true, when I say true partnership, truly, truly, truly partnerships, champions, we come with ideas, they say, how can we make that happen? How can we help support you? How can we step in? So grateful to you all. And then also to our funders, we'll shout them out, Lambent Foundation, a thank you to Blue Rider Group at Morgan Stanley, New York City Tourism Foundation. Those folks have directly supported or helped to make this program and programs as part of our 20th anniversary possible. And I think those are all of my thank yous. And I believe I will wrap it up, but we have gifts for you all. That, yes, we're not quite set and ready. Yeah, we can bring them out. I'll get your, if I can get your help too, yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna give him nearest help. Uh-oh. So, and we'll figure out how to like get them to and from for y'all too. Oh. But yeah, just a little token of support, some plants and gardens and seeds. And things. There's a bag. It will be throwback, which you will see with an apron. And also we have, I just want to acknowledge, there's a candle in there by Harlem Candle Company. A good friend, Terry Johnson. If folks don't know Harlem Candle Company, please check them out. Black woman doing incredible entrepreneur, making beautiful things in the world. And the candle is Vintage Garden. So we're continuing the theme. But that's it for the evening. Thank you all. Our next 20th anniversary programming. Wow. I invite you to tune in. Our next anniversary programming will be a live stream. We are extending extraordinary things in ordinary places. We have a storefront space in Bed-Stuy. That's our permanent home. And we'll be live streaming a concert, think NPR Tiny Desk style, by the trumpeter Dave Guy. And so that'll be live streamed as our next anniversary program, and some more to come. So I invite you all to continue to check out our website and our Instagram to see what we have upcoming. And that's it.
And as we close out, I'm just going to ask you all to give this entire room that I'm sure is filled with many incredible Black women leaders another round of applause, because as we've learned, oftentimes it is Black women who are in the role of institution building, even though other kinds of leaders are put out front, but we get to see on this stage what it means when Black women are in leadership and they are out front telling these stories. So thank you, Joy, for the work that you do. Thank you, everyone on this stage. Thank you, Ayesha, for being this model for another generation. Thank you, Ayesha. Thank you, Kalila Bates, my producer. Thank you all for being here. Have a great evening.